If you're using a submersible pressure gauge and a wireless air transmitter, but your dive computer's on your left wrist, how do you configure that? Hi everybody, welcome to the Scuba Diving Magazine channel and welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A, where I'm Mark, a former dive instructor, doing my best to answer your scuba diving questions. If you do have any dive questions, pop them down in the comment section. Use this Ask Mark hashtag in your comment, and that way it just highlights it behind the scenes so I know to answer. I do type out an answer. Well, I do my best to type out an answer as soon as I can, but the community does an awesome job of answering questions as well. So if you do see any questions, by all means, sort of let them know the answer if I haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, today I'm answering a question from somebody, because if this is your name, I cannot pronounce it, but they're asking about how to configure your wireless air transmitter if it's on the opposite side to your dive computer. This person, I'm going to say Lyudmil Bozadziev, 5169, says, when diving with both a AI transmitter and a submersible pressure gauge, with the AI transmitter using the high pressure port over your left shoulder, so it's on the same side as your dive computer, how do you route the hose for the submersible pressure gauge? Is it an issue that the submersible pressure gauge hose is coming from the right high pressure port, but still needs to be on the left thigh D-ring? Or would you recommend putting your dive computer on the right hand? That really is the easiest option. And there are a few benefits to having your dive computer on your right hand side. So if you have your submersible pressure gauge traditionally goes on the left hand side. In most regulator configurations, it goes on the left. But with a wireless air transmitter, they only have a specific range, and most are fairly limited. They're only in the like 1, maybe 2 meter radius. There are some that are like tens of meters, but they're quite rare. Most are just like a meter, maybe 2. So by having the wireless air transmitter on the right hand side, that extends the reach that the signal has to transfer, and you might get some signal loss. You could put your submersible pressure gauge, your wireless air transmitter on the left-hand side, the same as your dive computer, and your submersible pressure gauge coming out of the right-hand port. However, you now have that one mixed up with your regulator hoses. So if your second stage comes out and you need to do the tilt and sweep method to try and find those hoses, you're now going to have 3 hoses, and granted, 2 of them are hopefully going to be your either your alternate or your primary second stage. But one problem is that your gauge is probably going to be clipped in place. So when you tilt and sweep, you could get caught in the hose because it's physically attached. Whereas with the alternate's usually quick release. So you find that hose and okay, if you pull it free, you pull it free. Either way, you're going to find a second stage. When it's physically clipped in place, it might sort of restrict you, and now you don't have a second stage and your right arm is tangled up in hoses. So you don't kind of want that. So what I would do is keep the submersible pressure gauge on the left hand side, put the wireless air transmitter on the right hand side, and touch wood, you'll probably be fine with that kind of distance, because unless you have really long arms and you dive with your dive computer on an outstretched arm, realistically you're going to be closer to here, which is your transmitter is going to be about there. That's definitely in range, and when you're reading the gauge, it's going to be in range, so it should be fine putting it on the right hand side, on the left hand side. As I said earlier, there are benefits to having your dive computer on the right wrist, and that is that when you're checking gauges and when you're like adjusting for buoyancy, you can check on your dive computer. Your dive computer doesn't have to move. If you're grabbing hold of that low pressure inflator hose and then lifting it up, as far as your dive computer is concerned, you've just gone up the best part of like a meter. So your depth has suddenly changed, and now you're adjusting your buoyancy. If your computer's on your left-hand side, you can't check whether you're actually ascending. I mean, if you've got something physical to reference, you can check how quickly or slowly you're ascending or descending. But if your dive computer's on your right-hand wrist, you can physically see your current depth, you can see whether you're ascending, and you can still adjust your buoyancy. So I tend to have my dive computer on my right-hand side, and then having the transmitter on the right-hand side as well, it just helps with that. If there is any kind of like signal issue, then you can just fit a high pressure hose on the end, or you can fit the transmitter on the end of a high pressure hose and then route that wherever you want within reason. I'd probably still route it, personally I'd probably route it over my left hand shoulder, so it's there. If you have it on the left hand like flank, then you'd have to clip it somewhere. Personally, yeah, I'd probably just put it over my left hand shoulder, but that's very much up to you. Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it unless you have been trying it out with the transmitter on the right, your computer on the left, and you're consistently getting some kind of signal error. Then my first port of call would be to fit it on the right hand wrist. If there's some reason not to fit it on the right hand wrist, then I'd fit the transmitter to a longer high pressure hose to get it closer to the computer. But I still always have that gauge always on the left hand side, just because the old adage of regulators on the right, or your regulator hoses coming over your right hand shoulder, everything else is on the left. It just keeps things neat and tidy. But whatever regulator configuration works for you, works for you. That's just how I would do it. Yeah, transmitters are becoming more and more popular nowadays, and they are actually replacing the old analog gauges, which I'm still kind of reluctant to do myself. I know a lot of people trust their transmitters, and as long as you keep that battery topped up, touch wood, everything's fine. But yeah, they do have limited ranges, and of course you want to make sure that you have paired it to your dive computer and not Fred, who's been setting up next to you, because that can happen on some non-permanent pairing like configurations. If your buddy or the person next to you is setting up their transmitter and they pressurize that cylinder whilst you're also like setting up your dive computer to look for a pairing, there is a chance that it will hook onto that signal and not yours. It's not a proximity thing, so everything can be fine. You're doing your pre-dive checks and yep, I've got plenty of gas, and then Fred goes off with his buddy in that direction, and all of a sudden, oh, signal loss, oh, what's wrong with my transmitter? Actually nothing, it's just you're paired up with a different transmitter. If it's a permanent pairing one, where you type in the serial number into the computer, that's so much more reliable, and you never have to repair it. But yeah, that would be my my recommendation to yeah, keep your regulator like as normal with your submersible pressure gauge on your left hand side. Either rely on the signal strength of the transmitter, because you're probably going to be in this position when you're looking, and that's pretty close. Otherwise, just put it on your right hand side. There are benefits to it, mainly in adjusting your buoyancy. Everything keeps nice and stable, and everything, you can keep an eye on it whilst you're adjusting your buoyancy. Any other questions, by all means, remember to pop them down in the comment section underneath this video. Use this AskMark hashtag to get it featured in an up and coming video. And also remember to check out our website, our magazine, everything that we do over there. Remember, we do all sorts of different subscription services and stuff, both digital and physical versions of the magazine, which is always a nice gift idea if you've got Christmas coming up. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and a subscription if you're new here. That's free, we don't charge for that, but there is a membership if you want some early videos. Anyway, yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.